Speaking of bailouts, two of the big three, Chrysler and General Motors, came to Washington this week, Governor Granholm, and asked for another $21 billion in emergency loans. The companies still haven't resolved all their issues with the unions and the bondholders. They still haven't shown a clear path to solvency. Why should the taxpayers keep them on life support?
First of all, let's be clear. This is a loan. It's a loan that they are attempting to prove viability so they can pay it back. When this happened with Chrysler before, Chrysler paid it back. The taxpayers actually won. But they did present
$1 billion.
Right, but it was a different time, too, and a different circumstance, and it didn't happen during the course of a major national meltdown. This problem is, the problem of with the auto industry is layered upon the lack of consumer confidence. People are not buying cars. I don't care whether they're American cars or international cars. My pal here from South Carolina, who I think is a bit, I mean, you'd have to say he's a bit of an outlier in terms of economic theory. He's somebody who is more of a libertarian than the rest of us, or most folks, would say that this creative destruction would be good. Every single country that has an auto industry is stepping forward to help that auto industry. Why wouldn't we help this industry too? Because it needs 3.5 million jobs. You talk about a stimulus that's supposed to save or create 3.5 million jobs? Well, we would just take that whole thing away. Communities all across the country, from Michigan to South Carolina to Minnesota, would be seeing devastation.
Let me bring in the outlier here, Governor Sanford, because you have a BMW plant in South Carolina, which is, I think, is not asking for any federal help. So tell Governor Granholm why residents of your state don't want to keep bailing out her companies.
One, I'd say I don't know that I'm an outlier. I think I'm really more fitting with where Main Street is, because when I talk to people back home at a town hall meeting, what they overwhelmingly tell me is, I'm not getting a bailout. I don't understand why everybody else is getting a bailout. I would say with regard to automotive companies, there's some structural things that have to change for them to be competitive going forward. Some things that the BMWs and other companies across this country and across the world have done that, with all due respect to GM, they haven't done. And the idea of throwing in money so you take away that pressure that would force a reform essential to their long survival, I think short-term in perspective.
You could make a generalization that they haven't done this. I'm telling you that we are the poster child state for this reform that has been going on. We have lost over 400,000 jobs in Michigan just from the vast majority of it related to the auto industry because of the restructuring that they have been undertaking. To say that they aren't doing that, or that the plans that they have you read them? You probably haven't read those plans. You don't know what they have taken on. I am telling you that they have taken on enormous efforts to restructure. What they need during this recession is a bridge to be able to make them viable. And do we want in this nation to lose the backbone of manufacturing in this country? Do we want to be a nation that doesn't want to manufacture anything? Because this industry, with all of the thousands of parts...
I want to bring in Governor Pawlenty, who's been sitting here. Where do you come down on the auto bailout?
Clearly, the auto industry needs to be restructured. It cannot continue on its current platform in its current form. And the reason that the unions and the other stakeholders have not cut a deal with the automakers is because they believe the federal government, not enough, federal government is going to bail them out. And so the best way to get this thing restructured, I believe, is in the bankruptcy court, and to have the federal government continue to plow money into this. Well, Jennifer, let me just finish, though. The unions and the auto companies have been unable to put a deal together that fundamentally restructures the industry. It needs to get done. The only way it's really going to get done is in bankruptcy court. They should have done it 6 months ago. They should do it now.
Governor Pawlenty, have you read the report that they have just submitted? I bet you haven't. No, but they have. Look, wait. Let me just respond to this, because the unions have made enormous concessions. They have starting wages have taken 50% pay cut. Don't tell me that they haven't done that.
How about their retiree health fund?
Well, and their retiree health fund. So what do you want to do about this? Every other country is providing health care to their companies. We do not. So we are already asking our businesses, not just the auto industry, but other industries that are competing in a global economy, to start 50 yards behind everybody else. Is that fair? Let's get a uniquely American solution to the health care costs so that we're not asking our companies to compete in a global economy.
You want the government to take over the health care system?
I do want our government to provide a level playing field.
Governor Sanford, the last word on this, and I want to move on. Go ahead.
I just say this. If you look at how the textile industry was decimated in the South, if you look at how the furniture industry was decimated in the South, it didn't take a series of bailouts to restore them back to, again, in some cases losing pieces of business, in some cases actually growing market share based on changing the way that they were doing things. I would also say this. There's one report that we can all look at with regard to the automotive companies, and that's their share price. The markets have been saying what you're doing is not working, which is why the shares have continued to move south. And what's interesting is they came just a couple of months ago and said, look, if you just give us this money, we'll get restructuring done, we'll be on our way to getting things right. Here they come back a couple months later asking for another $25 billion.